All right. Hey, everyone. It is January 27th. Thanks for coming to the Interplanetary Chamber of Commerce. Originally scheduled about 10 minutes ago, starting a little late here. Today we're going to be going over a policy briefing from David Logsdon. And then afterwards, we will be doing a update from our members, Space Career Academy from Kelvin O'Doom, see how that organization is going. Depending on if we can get quorum by the end of the meeting, we might hold an external general meeting as well. But for now, we will at least get started with these two presentations. So first of all, David, let me go ahead and pull up your presentation, and thank you again for showing up and helping us with this policy brief.
My pleasure.
Let me know when you can see that okay.
I can see it okay.
All right, take it away.
So when I first met Tony, I got him confused with the Hall of Fame baseball manager, Tony La Russa. So whenever I see his name, I would think of the Hall of Fame baseball manager.
I'll
So that's
take
my
it.
Tony La Russa story.
I'll
So
take it.
my name is David Logsdon. I'm the Senior Director of Space Policy at the Information Technology Industry Council, a leading technology trade association, where I run our Space Enterprise Council. And today we're going to look at space at the pointy edge of the 21st century global technology sphere and how you partner in that environment. Next slide. So a little bit about Space Enterprise Council very quickly. We're now 25 years old. We were created at the behest of NASA and the Department of Commerce. They wanted a commercial voice for industry. So they came to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and said, stand up to Space Enterprise Council. So it was stood up. Bob Brumley was one of the first voices advocating and championing the Space Enterprise Council. And it's great that we still have close connections with Bob. And we are focused in three specific areas: international collaboration, space and cyber, and space and emerging technology. Next slide. So what are we going to look at today? Where space was in 2014, where it was in 2024, and where it's going to be in 2034. We're skipping
all Techland things.
We're skipping that second bullet because of time, but we're going to look at the shifting geopolitical landscape. So next slide. So in 2014, there are 190 countries. In 2014, only 58 had any type of space program. Interesting that in 2014, a few of the countries that stood up space programs were in the Middle East. More on that to follow. 1,100 satellites in orbit. It's really in terms of the small satellites, it was the universities doing the business. And most of the small sats focused on remote sensing. 92 launches attempted. In 2014, our industry had about $340 billion in global revenue. But we started seeing venture capital firms pouring money into space startups to the tune of 1.8 billion. We saw the first commercial crew contracts, among other mergers. Orbital Sciences merged with ICoC, which is now part of Northrop. And new space really started to gain legs. First fixed price contracts for commercial companies. And on the global front, Russia invaded Crimea, which threatened the US-Russian ISS relationship, a theme that is ongoing. Next slide. Emerging technologies. You had the rollout of the cloud first policy in 2011. One can argue that it still seems like it's still being rolled out. Cloud adoption is slow coming, but it is impacting our industry. So is big data. The big data initiative was rolled out in 2012, now 13 years ago. But we're still trying to figure out what to do with all this data. AI started to advance, but only in terms of narrow AI purposes. A lot of advancements have taken place in the last 13 years. and there are 11 million coders worldwide. Next slide. So looking at 2021, and I won't really go into this. This is what our ecosystem looked like. Um, it's probably doubled in size since 2021 with many other different verticals. Next slide. So 2024, we're up to 90 spacefaring nations. Since 2014, most of these countries on the list are developing nations. They see space as a quick way to build instant infrastructure and gain the global status. 223 launches. The economy is now, global space economy has doubled, basically doubled since 2014, and it's growing at a 9%, outstripping global GDP. Still not enough people are paying attention to the impact of our industry into broader economics. It plays an integral role in theaters of conflict, but also it plays an integral role in collaborative opportunities, Earth observation, so on and so forth. On the geopolitical front, 42 now, it's close to 50 countries have signed the Artemis Accords. 11 countries are signatories for the Chinese-Russian moon base, which I read is now accepting commercial folks as well. Very interesting. And then, of course, we had the potential of a Russian space-based nuclear weapon. Next slide. Emerging tech. And of course, Biden administration, AI executive orders and initiatives will be superseded by the Trump administration, EOs, so on and so forth. But here's a snapshot of what the Biden administration AI plan called for. Chief artificial intelligence officers at every federal agency. So that really has not happened per se. But we're finding that federal agencies don't even realize they're in the middle of the AI hype cycle. They don't even realize what AI actually is. They don't realize how to identify regular AI and transformational AI. Agencies are starting to look at as a service consumption model for cloud services. Could be an opportunity for edge computing. Could be an opportunity for AI as a consumption model as well. Blockchain has been discussed, but really has been implemented that much to date. Space Force and others are taking a long look at ground station as a service, virtualizing ground stations. DoD is making a transition to zero trust in terms of cyber. And the first space-based data center is in the works between Leo Cloud and Axiom Space. I think we'll see more of this. And we're up to 28 million coders. Next. So I found this slide, which is fascinating as we're figuring out how to implement AI into space systems, looking at these various different verticals where the United States and China match up. We're number one in talent, and this says that the Chinese are 20th in talent, but in the operating environment, we're way behind. So very interesting chart to look at, very interesting chart to think about where the United States may want to partner in terms of AI collaboration in space. Next slide. 2034. We're supposed to have a 1.8 trillion global space economy. By that time, most of the world's 195 countries will have some semblance of space program, large growth in the African continent. You have the Dragonfly mission, lunar exploration will indeed lead to permanent colonization, rovers, outpost mining, nuclear-powered spacecraft. It will become a reality. Space sustainability already is, but will become even more of a concern with all these large Leo constellations either already in orbit or countries plan to have them in orbit. Cislunar, I think the non-space entrants uh, will really help drive the cislunar market. I know that a lot of the high-end Italian space car manufacturers, I'm thinking Dallara, who makes high-end chassis, are very interested in getting into the cislunar market. The high-end chassis could be incorporated into the next generation lunar rovers. And what we're seeing in terms of environmental change, extreme weather will drive that demand signal for space age services and data. Next slide. An emerging tech. Um, there will be a protest of a procurement written but exclusively by AI. We'll see the coming advent of artificial general intelligence. Advances in quantum computing and AI will lead to several space-based data centers. Laser comm will become mainstream. Uh, I believe coding, for the most part, will become obsolete and will be overtaken by AI. And I mentioned the AI consumption model. Next slide. So the geopolitical landscape, very interesting. And as I mentioned, since 2014, many emerging nations have created space programs, many of which are in Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. In February 2021, the Paraguayans had the launch of their first satellite. They made a documentary of that launch, 3-hour program, 2.8 million viewers out of a country of 7 million inhabitants tuned in for that television program. We need to tap into these emerging nations while we can. Latin America and the Caribbean Space Agency was stood up in 2021. The African Space Agency stood up in 2018. There looks like there will be, and there was a Ibero-American network of space agencies that was established in May 2024. And think of voting blocks across the various things like ITU when you think of these emerging nations and these organizations being established. And there are rumors of a potential Middle East space agency. Next slide. Also very interesting, where a number of future spaceports are planned for, many of which are in fact, I think all these except the Canary Islands could be considered in emerging nations. Very, very interesting. I can tell you that SpaceX, as we speak, has a large contingent meeting with the Omani government. Very interesting times. Next slide. We need to pay attention to BRICS. BRICS is a consortium of countries, including Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Those were the founding nations. Why? And now they're up to about, I think, 12 members, with a number of other potential applicants in the wings. Why is this important? They have a population of 3.5 billion, 45% of the world's inhabitants, and they right now capture 20% of the global economy. They also are planning a dedicated Earth observation remote sensing system. Next slide. And as you can see, in terms of BRICS, here are the 15 countries that have applied to join. I think Vietnam is now in. So is Thailand, I believe. And then you have a number of other countries waiting in the wings. We need to pay close attention to BRICS. Next slide. And Artemis Accords, I'd have to add Finland and a few other countries to this. But interesting looking at the signatories Artemis Accord, the members of BRICS, the signatories of the Russian Chinese moon base, looking at the ITU members from a regional perspective, looking at the members of NATO, looking at the members of AUKUS, looking at the countries that have China as their leading trade partners and looking across that, seeing where there are commonalities and seeing where there are interesting opportunities for partners. Next slide. And so I mentioned the Lunar Research Station, the countries that are current members of the BRICS. There's also agreements in place for Asian Pacific Space Cooperation Organization, and the Arabs have the Union of Astronomy and Space Sciences. Um, and we in the Western countries we focus on what we call the North Star. We have a North Star approach, but the Chinese have taken a different tact. They focus on the global South and Africa, the Sigma Autonomous approach. One country that has inroads and that is a trusted partner into the global South is India. We need to pay close attention to the Indians and shore our ties and partnerships with India. Next slide. So when you are indeed looking at partnering from a private sector, from a US government perspective, who has those across the board, who has those capabilities that will answer that demand signal? You have to understand what you're trying to address if you're looking at emerging tech, and you need to have a risk mitigation plan in place. Most companies do not. We have to support the development of global standards across the board, including in space and cyber. And we have to understand what the 21st century global STEM workforce is as it pertains to the integration of emerging technologies like AI and cloud. When we're looking at next generation space systems, I don't believe that we have the STEM ecosystem in place just yet to address where we need to go. Next slide. And thanks again for your time. If you need to have any questions on the slides, please reach out to me at any time. And Tony, I appreciate the time, and back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Again, apologies for the noises here at the airport, but thanks again for the policy brief. Always great to hear from you and hear how the state of everything's going right now in the space political world. So thanks again for that. The other person we wanted to call upon, if you'd like to present today, is Kelvin. I know you had an update from the Space Career Academy. I don't have any slides from you, so I can give you some options to share. If you've got any slides you'd like to use, let me know.
Okay, yeah. So I got a slide and I got a couple clips I want to show about what's going on in our cohorts. And yeah, so let me just share. Give me a second. Okay. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay. Yeah. So just another presentation, a little brief introduction about Space Career Academy. So what we do at Space Career Academy is we are premier training ground for emerging talent. And basically what we discovered is, like the first thing in the slide we look at is the problem. Why Space Career Academy? Because we noticed a gap in the industry. And the gap was how, students from academia were finding roles and opportunities in the industry. And on the industry side, how a company is getting prepared to, bring in, new and fresh talent from academia. So that's how Space Security Academy started to actually bridge that gap to make sure that students right after university can smoothly transition into the industry with our mentorship, our coaching, and also we provide therapy as well. So just a little brief. So yeah, so our solution is we act as the the middleman between the academia and the space industry. And we also help with talent placement as well. Skip to the next slide. So yeah, so who we train. So we train graduates, final year students, entrepreneurs, and company staff. And who do we serve? We serve educational institutions by merging academic credits with industry internships, space companies, to create a talent pipeline for recruitment, investor VCs that will also want to tap into our incubator program. So one thing about Space Career Academy is we provide two pathways. The first pathway is the job seeking pathway, where students that go through our program and take our courses would be able to specialize in a field in the space industry. And the other pathway we provide is the entrepreneurship pathway, where we have our incubator program that allows students to actually, we help them conceptualize ideas and get them to market, basically, with the help of our mentors and our coaches that are in the industry. So the unique value proposition about Space Career Academy is we have a metaverse advantage where we provide immersive learning through the metaverse. So we use AI, technologies like AI, VR to, tell stories and immerse our learners and give them like let's say a Gen Z experience. Because one thing that we notice is a lot of guys that go through high school kind of don't make it to the college level and also get, opportunities. So we use the metaverse as a way to get them hooked and provide them opportunities with the space companies that actually, are seeking talent. So we kind of give them some sort of a pipeline through the metaverse. Okay. So yes, here are just a little chat about our revenue streams and how do we distribute our talent. So we distribute to space agencies, VCs, startup programs, therapists, education institutions, private companies. Okay. So let me just stop this slide and move to I'm gonna play some of our cohorts that are currently running. Just give me a second, just need to locate it. Okay, any questions so far while I pull out the clips, guys?
Doesn't appear to be.
Okay, just give me a second. Okay, so here we are. So I'm sharing. Go share. Okay, so here is a few clips of some of the sessions that go on.
Good. So it's early afternoon, but I appreciated, it was good for me when we connected on LinkedIn. Because that helped me learn a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
Tristar. So maybe if we just introduce each other, I'll introduce myself first and then
Yeah, sure.
we can kind of go from there. So just so
Yeah.
you know, I worked for NASA for 18 years.
Oh, that's
And,
great.
and I worked in a lot of different areas. So I was a lot of going back to the moon, sending people to the moon, sending people to Mars. I worked on space station program, and then I worked on a lot of robotic spacecraft. So I've managed building a spacecraft. I've managed operating spacecraft. I've managed, like, I was the deputy for astrophysics at NASA, so all of the astronomy missions.
Excellent.
And, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I think so. And I did a lot of international work as well. So I was working with all the different countries to try to join forces to go back to the moon or go to Mars, because everything's so unaffordable for one country nowadays.
Mhm.
But so
So yeah, that's a little preview. And currently, we have Jeff Lawson as one of our NASA mentors, and we also have our incubator program also going. So here's Kirsten.
but probably also not the right person. Before I give you a name, I will do a little bit of reconnaissance for you because I think I know who it is, but I don't know if they've done like role shifts. Since I left and things like that. So in general, if you can get a contact that isn't business development, doesn't work in a
So these are some of our training sessions that go on. Here are group sessions as well, where some of our students get to pitch about their
It is about a grapefruit-sized drone.
about their startups.
Smaller, cheaper, and human-safe for zero-G environments, using proprietary piezoelectric thrusters that we've developed. Essentially, these are two vibrating membranes that create jets of air that are surpassing the current solutions of pressurized air or electric fans. It makes it small and agile, human-safe, inexpensive with less than a $5,000 hardware cost, and was originally designed as part of the Rakia space mission until it was rebooted for the startup. We will implement this as a pay-per-minute rental model. Our largest market, we predict, actually will be game.
Yeah. And creating artworks, selling this artworks, screens, all other merch, things like that.
So as you were talking, this is the power of brainstorming and getting together. I just read a book, and I'm pretty sure it's in the book called Dark Sky by Daniel Dudney. Sorry, I was looking at the title over my shoulder. I think it's in that book. It may have been in another book. I read a lot of books, so but I think it was in that book that talks about how initially art and science were one. Maybe that's exactly what you were just saying. They were one. And then we separated them out. But when you look back at the Leonardo da Vinci's, he was both an artist and a scientist, and there were others that were in that same category. So maybe there's something within that too of looking at how you rejoin those two categories in a way that is interesting and
So yeah, I just want to pause and just talk about a little bit about SCA. So what we stand for is we stand for STEAM. And I have a film background, and I bring arts into STEM, which is known in the space industry. So one thing that we want to do is want to also allow a lot of like artists, guys that also bring that art element into the space industry. So one of our case studies is we trying to find a way we could connect arts with space. And even, trickling down history, we had Leonardo da Vinci, who was a scientist and also was an artist as well. So SCA wants to actually, bring about like new, fresh talent that, bring a total different perspective into the industry, basically.
helpful to both of the categories as well. You advance art, you
Okay. Yeah, so I can keep going. Yeah, so I think that's a little bit about it. I could also share what is it? Recordings. So here is our current mentor panel for our incubator program that's currently running. So as you saw Kirsten, we have Andrea, we have Julia Lee, who was once lecturing for Harvard and MIT in astrophysics. We have Jonathan Straub, very good, cool marketing guy that helps entrepreneurs bootstrap, ideas into the industry. We have Isabel and also Russell McLeod. He's one of like the guys that I started with BrainStation, and we connected. And yeah, we built a relationship, and he's also helping with our cohorts and yeah. think that's about it for me.
That's awesome, Kelvin. Thanks again for sharing the updates on that. I know that's one of the reasons that, we love having you here on the executive committee, is we do a lot of non-traditional space industry introductions, trying to build the space economy. Art is definitely part of that. All of the STEM industry obviously is very big with what we do. Carolyn, obviously working in the education world. Getting to partner with you has always been awesome. As you can hear behind me, I'm in the airport right now on my way to a conference to go talk about the non-traditional space careers that are out there and how those can all tie into a space economy. So always love having you. As well as David, I really appreciate the policy. Obviously, any Chamber of Commerce, advocacy is one of the large things that we look into doing, looking at the better policies so that we can continue to grow. All the businesses under us can continue to grow. So really thank you guys both for those updates on everything. Really appreciate you guys hopping on. And then Carolyn, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you if you had anything for us. Oh, and you're on mute.
I focused on getting the video working and forgot to go off mute. Yeah, as the president and CEO of the ICoC, it's a real pleasure to come together in this meeting today and to certainly hear the advocacy and policy update from a US perspective. I'm based in Canada, originally from Australia, so hearing how it positions with the work of other countries is very important, and it's certainly our role to expand and have that presence in other countries as well. So that's really great. So thank you very much for both providing those updates today. As Kelvin knows, we are continuing to work together on a new and exciting initiative with my other hat on as the Dean of the Faculty of Business and IT, and working on a partnership that we can with Ontario Tech University, where I'm based. And so I just want to again thank you all for presenting today. When I look at our requirements for quorum, I believe we have 4 of our executive committee members, and I believe we need 5 to be able to reach quorum. So we won't be able to vote on any items today. So, but I'm going to just ask Andrew if he has any updates from his perspective. He's not one of the persons reporting on any of the particular committees, but I do just want to check in if he has any updates that he wants to provide that we can capture, and then of course get some approval in our next meeting, general meeting next month.
Just that we're off and running for 2025. Congratulations. We have done our yearly meeting, and we're ready to go for our committee members and directors and officers. And so we'll be continuing another year. We have some sales from last year that allow us to continue on this year doing our process, and our donors are ready to stand behind us for another year. So we're doing good.
Indeed. And probably next month we'll start to provide some updates on some events that we're planning to have run by the ICoC. This year we've got some great partnership opportunities and location planning that we're looking at for these different events. So yeah, our membership can stay tuned for that information as well. So yes, thank you for that positioning, Andrew, because you're right, we've got a great year ahead. Is there anything else that you wanted to provide as an update, perhaps on the website?
We were working with Ontario Tech and Space Career Academy on that. And so we've had our first meeting for the year we brought in the students to start their process, and we'll meet again every Friday to get the Ontario Tech students in charge of accomplishing all of the tasks that we have looking for on the website. So congratulations, Carolyn, on bringing that and getting that part of it done. And so Sarah's been spearheading that. We did our meeting on Friday and get the students started with the process. So next Friday we'll be tackling especially the login process, and all of the students have now logged in, and so they are going to go through their work series process to make sure it's easier for members to log into the website and get signed up.
Right. All important pieces to the puzzle. And we'll continue to highlight the new members that are coming online on a month-by-month basis and providing opportunity for our membership to provide a talk as part of the monthly meetings as well. So if anyone has ideas for speakers and has companies to bring forward, then please do let us know. So at this stage, recognizing, as I said, that we can't perform any voting, I'd just like to see if there's any other discussions, any other business that anyone wants to bring. Was there anything you wanted to bring forward today, Terry?
Nothing on my end. I'm in transit as well, so always good to see happy, familiar faces. Anyway, I would take the camera off. You don't want to see me. It would be a disheartening experience. Tony, looking good, buddy.
Tony, is there any other updates that you wanted to provide before we draw the meeting to a close?
No, I've got none. I'm piggybacking off of Andrew. 2025 is going to be a great year. Terry, it's always great to hear you, even if we can't see you. Hopefully I get to run into you at one of these conferences if you're not going to be in Orlando this week. No, the only membership update I had is we had a slow month in the holidays like we normally do, a little 4% growth, nothing too special. We did sign up a few companies, but we do have 7, at least maybe closer to 10 that have guaranteed to sign up by the end of this week or midweek sometime. So we should be getting an uptick here, start the year off, get some new members in and continue to grow. And again, heading to the first conference of the year down in Orlando. So should get another uptick in membership here in just a moment. So just excited to see where this year is going to go and how we can continue to keep growing our organization. Looking forward to it. I appreciate Carolyn and Andrew and everybody else on that committee too for helping make all this possible.
I think we certainly appreciate you as well. Yes, so between Andrew, myself, and Tony, we are the directors of the ICoC, and I just want to echo Tony and thank my other 2 directors, thank our executive committee, those who've stepped up to be part of our operating committees. We've got some great things ahead. So with that, I will draw this meeting to a close, and we look forward to the next monthly meeting that we will have, which is on which date, Tony? So everyone's in line.
That will be on, actually, I've got it on the agenda here. It'll be on February 24th.
Perfect. Thank you.
It helps if I actually hit the stop recording button.